Hello, boxing fans. Welcome to another episode of Boxing 396. It's a nice Saturday. I'm here in the Manny Young section of Philadelphia with Councilman Curtis Jones. We have just renamed the boxing gym at the Kendrick Recreation Center the Harold Johnson Memorial Gym. Thanks to Councilman Curtis Jones. How you doing, Councilman?
I'm outstanding.
Tell me what it means to have this great facility here in the boxing gym renamed after our beloved champion, Harold Johnson.
Well, first of all, it's historic. The fact that he was a fighter from this area, it speaks to what kids from this neighborhood and all around the city can become.
Okay.
He fought a number of years and had a reputation of being a prolific fighter. He fought Jersey Joe Walcott. He has the distinct honor or a dubious distinction of being defeated by him, but also his father was beaten by him. But he contributed to the sport totally. For the kids in this neighborhood, everybody can't play basketball. Everybody's not going to score the winning touchdown. Some kids need that ring to show their athleticism. And why it's important citywide is because conflict resolution, anti-violence efforts, you can prove yourself in that ring. And that conflict resolution doesn't have to result in gunshots. If you get in there, there's nobody you can pass the ball to. There's nobody who's going to block for you. There's you, your opponent, in that ring. And a lot of the hostilities and stuff like that, they can work out right in there. Prove yourself in there. And one of the things that we try to do is make sure that the character of the athlete comes through. Because a kid who can really fight usually doesn't. Because he's confident enough to know that I'm going to give you mercy. I'm going to walk away from this thing because my hands are lethal weapons. My mind is disciplined enough to know that I can walk away from you safely. Half the time the violence that happens in these streets is because the other guy is scared.
You're absolutely right. Why is Harold Johnson so loved in this community? We know this is community, but so many people came out today to really honor him.
This is a big city, Philadelphia, but it's a small town.
Okay.
And Manioc is a small town, and I'm their councilman, but I've only been here 8 years. You have to be here like 2-3 generations before you really count up here. And he was, and his family was, his father before him was, and so he's a part of the history of this area. And up here, it doesn't matter as much about race. It matters about character.
Okay.
It matters about commitment. And one way to be a hero up here is to be good at your athletics and at your sports, and you become a hero up here real quick.
Councilman, many people don't know, but you're a former boxer yourself. So a lot of the discipline you talk about with kids here in Harold Johnson, you do have a connection via boxing with Harold Johnson. Talk to me about boxing, what it meant to you.
So every Philadelphia kid thinks he can fight.
Okay.
That's just a given. That's a part of your Constitution. I went away to Millersville in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, fought at the Christmas Addicts Boys Club. And because the guys up there weren't inner city guys, I actually thought I had some skills. And then I came back to Philadelphia during summer break and boxed at Tucci Gordon's gym down at 60th and Vine, where I learned how good I wasn't. And it actually changed my profession. I'm a politician today because I figured out that I couldn't fight that well to eat in the ring. And what it does teach you, though, is character. And sometimes you can't pass the ball when you're tired. Sometimes you have to figure it out. There's no back door to those rings unless you want to lay down. And when it comes to that sport, it can help you throughout life. You have to be in shape. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to have a commitment to what you're doing because sometimes there's going to be bad rounds.
One word that would describe Harold Johnson, if you could summarize him in one word.
From Manioc. That's 2 words.
Okay. Well, Councilman, thank you so much. We appreciate what you've done for this rec center and continued success.
Thank you.
I'm here with former cruiserweight champion Nate Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, how you doing, man?
How you doing, young man?
How does it feel to come out today to honor the great Harold Johnson?
Oh, it feels great to be here among one of the greats, and that's a beautiful thing.
What does Harold Johnson mean to you? Being a Philly world champion, you're also a Philly world champion.
Well, we was cousins.
Oh, he's your biological cousin?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, found that out about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your fondest memory of Harold Johnson?
He did a good job in the ring. He stuck to his guns and became successful.
became successful. Going back to how important is it to continue the legacy of Harold Johnson in this community?
Well, to show the community positive things, the youth, how they can make it, and they don't have to get out there and get in trouble. You know, they can follow positive people and just, you know, do good.
If you could describe the great Harold Johnson in one word, what's that one word?
A man amongst men.
That's several words. Okay, a man amongst men. Right. Well, thank you very much for coming out, champ.
Right.
Take care. Mr. Mathis, you're the director of the boxing program here?
Yes, here at Harold Johnson's Memorial Boxing Gym.
You were the catalyst in getting this institution renamed, the gym, after the great, one of the catalysts, you're very humble, having this gym renamed after the great champion. Yes. Talk to me about Harold Johnson and what he means to this community.
See, I grew up around Harold Johnson, like 2 blocks away, you know, and I've known him since I was a kid, and he was not a guy like, you know, you hope to get to meet him. He's a guy who would have time for you no matter what. We'd keep him down the gym longer than he said he was going to, and he'd be getting in trouble for hanging with us. And he was a great influence. He taught us about life too, not just boxing. He was a real community guy. He really was. He took care of a lot of the guys in the neighborhood.
What's your fondest memory of Harold Johnson?
I actually had a chance to spar with him down north.
Oh, you sparred?
One time. He was. That's how he was going to train me. He was training a doctor from Charter Fairmount, and I was training a couple little guys. But I was still young. I was in my 20s. I got hurt while I stopped boxing. And I asked him, I said, Harold, why don't you just train everybody here? What am I doing training guys? And he said, what about you? I said, I'll get a fight. We'll see how we're doing. He'd bring your bag. And the next night, he brought his. And I went 5 rounds with him. I'm sure because he let me, but that was a pretty thrill. That's a fond memory of mine.
Man, I don't mean to compare fighters, but there's a famous promoter who remained nameless, Russell Peltz, who believes Harold Johnson was one of the greatest light heavyweight champions of all time. Well, how true is that statement?
Oh, it's dead on. He's top 3 in anybody's list. I mean, up there with Archie Moore and Bob Foster, they stick up there. Other than that, there's nobody else going to crack the top 3. But nobody realizes how great he was. Not nobody, but the general public doesn't know what a great fighter he was and how many heavyweights he beat. And he was ranked #1 as a heavyweight at one point. And I mean, he was also light. He told me he used to put weights in his shoes for weigh-ins because he didn't want guys to realize that he was as big as he said he was. So he was actually like a super middleweight, 168 pounds or something, fighting the best heavies in the world and beating them. I mean, that's untouchable story.
Since you grew up in Manayunk, I have to ask you, there was light heavyweight champion Battling Siki, who used to walk down the Champs-Élysées with his pet lion, but also read that the great Harold Johnson had a lion.
I've heard that story.
How true is that story?
I don't know. I think he tried, but I don't have the facts. There's some family members here who would know, but I'm not one of them. I've heard that story though. That he had one. Whether he did it or not, I can't say.
How's this boxing gym helping this community going forward?
Keeps kids out of trouble, I hope. We got a lot of good kids coming down here. We got guys that come in and are just looking for a place to go. Okay. And we're here, and we'll always be here.
I've asked everyone to give me one word that describes the great Harold Johnson, and people give me 3 words or 4 words. Can you give me one word?
I'll say technician, as the way he fought. He was very
technician.
He was sharp. He was very sharp.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Continued success.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Folks, I'm here with John DeSanto, the genius, the architect behind PhillyBoxingHistory.com, the encyclopedia of what happens in Philly. John, how you doing?
Great.
Talk to me about Harold Johnson, man. You know everything about Harold.
Well, you know, he's without question one of the greatest fighters, not only to come out of Philly, but of all time, from anywhere. But, you know, the thing about Harold was I was lucky enough to know him maybe the last 10 years or so of his life. And he was the most humble, the most modest fighter and great fighter that I've ever seen in my life. You get guys who are in their second pro fight and they're on top, you know, their heads can't get through the door. Harold Johnson was so unassuming, you would have no idea that this guy had accomplished so much. And as other people have said, he was great. He was ranked number 1 as a light heavyweight and a heavyweight at the same time, I believe. And he fought, if you look at his record, he fought everybody. He was an amazing fighter and a really amazing guy. Great guy.
I met him once at the Blue Horizon and didn't wash my hand for a couple hours because I felt so honored to have met him. But you're right about Harold Johnson. What made him so great? You see films of him, and he's a very muscular guy, but he moves like a ballerina.
Yeah, the physique was unbelievable.
Yes, it was.
He wasn't a real big guy. He wasn't real tall. When I first met him, I thought, wow, I'd seen photos of him, films of him, and I expected this wall. Well, he was full of muscle, and he was, probably 80 years old when I met him. He was still a muscular guy. But his physique, he used to say, running the hills of Manayunk, sculpted that body of his. But he was such a finesse fighter. He was so, a great technician and just a really smart, slick fighter. And he could punch, but he wasn't known as a knockout artist. But he has some great knockouts in his career. But he also was just a super skilled, smart fighter. And it's sort of like people think of the Philadelphia fighter as kind of this blood and guts, rough and tumble guy. All Philly fighters have that in them somewhere. But Harold was one of those guys, like a George Benton, who was he was a thinker, and he used his skill to a great degree, and he had huge success.
The Mount Rushmore of Philly boxing.
Oh man,
Joe Frazier.
Has to be,
right? Joe Frazier. Joey Giardello.
Yep. Okay, go ahead. You asking me to fill it in?
Yes, sir.
That's an impossible task. It's like saying, who's your favorite fighter? What's your favorite movie? That conversation goes on for hours. But
Briscoe has to be there.
You have to put Benny Briscoe. You have to put Joe Frazier. I think Harold Johnson and Joey Giardello rounded out really nicely. But I'm in my early 50s. I can't see around Mount Rushmore without a Jeff Chandler or a Saad Muhammad. So
okay.
Instead of 4, we have to stretch it out. I don't know. It's really tough because when you start eliminating guys, it's impossible. But, when you talk about who were the best, Harold Johnson is up there. He's in that group. And, yeah. The other thing about it is that, Philadelphia's Joe Frazier will always be the heavyweight champion of Philly.
Yes.
No matter, Tim Witherspoon's won the heavyweight title. There's others that may come. But he'll always be our heavyweight champion. But Philadelphia, known for great middleweights, we've had more light heavyweight champions than any other weight class.
Yes.
Tommy Loughran, who's arguably the greatest fighter to come out of Philly. Harold Johnson, Mathis Saad Muhammad. There's a ton of them. And
Bernard Hopkins,
and he's in that group. He belongs there. He was a famous fighter, but he's not one that immediately people think of, and they should, because he was that good.
I don't mean to put Uncle Russell Peltz on the spot, but if you ask him who's the greatest light heavyweight champion out of Philadelphia, he will say Harold Johnson.
Mm-hmm. I know he was his favorite fighter also.
And I would concur based on the visual evidence. I would have to say Harold Johnson.
The greatest light heavyweight fight not greatest, like the most exciting. If you want the most exciting fight, you have to put Saad Muhammad in.
Without question.
Because he'll make it the greatest fight. But the best light heavyweight fight that you could, as far as skill and brains, that you could ever make would be Harold Johnson against Tommy Loughran.
Okay.
They were both, exquisite in what they did. And, who knows? That's probably could be a long, technical, not so thrilling draw on our hands, but they were great fighters.
One word to describe Harold Johnson.
Harold was a guy. No, just kidding.
Just one word.
For me, the one word is humble.
Okay.
I never have been so impressed by a fighter who, we're boxing fans. You're a fighter in the past. I love fighters, and they have the whole range. But I've never in my life met a top fighter or a top athlete that was as unassuming as Harold Johnson. He was the sweetest guy in the world. And so humble is definitely the one for me.
Thank you very much, John. PhillyBoxingHistory.com. Thank you. I'm here with Charlie Squillow, boxing trainer, historian, you name it, this man has done it. Charlie, talk to me about Harold Johnson and your fondest memory of Harold.
A gentleman, a great fighter, and I met him down Pat Steaks
Oh.
When he used to train across the street.
Okay.
Right. And he was a great guy, always try to help you. But my fondest remembrance is fighting on his light heavyweight championship card when he fought Von Clay.
Oh, you fought on that
Yeah,
card.
I was on there,
Oh,
6 rounds.
man. Okay.
So I got the privilege of being on the same card with him.
Did you guys share a similar locker room? The same locker room?
No, you know, chump.
How would you
Right.
describe Harold's fighting style?
Awesome. My style. Hit, move, think, feint, roll. That was my kind of guy. That's the kind of boxing I teach.
I asked John DeSanto this question I'm going to ask you. The Mount Rushmore of Philly boxing.
Absolutely.
Does he belong there?
Absolutely. Without hesitation.
Without hesitation.
Without hesitation. he was a great guy.
And you fought on that card with Harold. Mm-hmm. How did you do that night?
Should I lie or tell the truth?
Well, we won't know if it's a lie unless we go to BoxRec, but...
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
And I would like to go on the fact that I probably won. Yeah. But I don't actually know. I can't remember for whatever reason.
Troy,
But it was awesome to be on his card. It was a privilege.
there are a lot of people, and we know you're a lifer in boxing. We see you working with the kids. Why is boxing so important to the young people in Philadelphia?
I think it's important for them because they want to show people that they can do other things than rob, beat up people, be a pain in the butt. And what I like about boxing, it teaches kids how to respect each other.
Okay.
Really, it really does. Saved my life.
Okay.
It saved my life. I've seen it happen over. I'll give you a real fast story. There's a young kid in my gym right now. I had him live with me for 3 months. I finally got him back to his father. We straightened the situation out. Kid's doing great. I can't ask anymore. He's getting A's and B's. You know, so boxing in this kid's life, I think, has really been a crucial thing for him. You know, he's doing well with it. You know. And I just think it's a great game for kids or young men to grow, to grow up, and to be around fighters who, like for an example, Nate Miller.
Right.
You know, there's a guy. You know, he's nonchalant, a world champion at one time. You know, he don't go around and brag about it. Does a great job. All the fighters in Philadelphia that I've been around, Benny Brisker was a great guy. Jeff Chandler, same type. Always willing to work with you. You know, I've never had, and even the one guy I had a little trouble with, Mike Everett. For 15 years, he didn't talk to me because I stopped the fight when I was the referee. You know, but we're buddies now.
That's
and
true.
you know, and so like I said, once you're in that game, you'll always be friends, and it's a great thing.
One word to describe the great Harold Johnson.
And I can't believe anybody.
Just one word.
Champ.
Champ.
A champ.
Okay. Thank you very much, Charlie.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Nice talking.
George Hansen, Timmy Santis, boxing aficionado. This man is at every event. He coaches kids. Talk to me about Harold Johnson, Timmy.
Well, I didn't know him personally, but throughout every kid that I talked to growing up, he had an influence somewhere in their life. I mean, you can just Google somebody that has the ethics and exudes boxing in the way it used to be old school. Howard Johnson's picture would probably be there. Years when I started back at Henley's, we had like Myron Taylor and the guys started coming there. And their name, you know, they would look up to him. I mean, so he was a boxer's boxer. From and people that didn't know him knew of him, you know. So, you know, I was privileged to grow up and watch some of his fights. My friend Charlie, who I work at his gym, was on his card, so I hear about that, you know. So I, you know.
Why is this so important to have this boxing gym bear the name of such a legendary champion as Harold Johnson?
Well, the respect that goes on, that's sort of how would you put it, the legacy.
The legacy,
you know, it carries on. The legacy of a boxer that contributes into the boxing history in his city, in his neighborhood. And it gives, you know, the kids place to go, to aspire to be something, to keep them off the streets. And that's what we need, more of these kind of neighborhood gyms that they don't need to have like $200
Right.
to come to. They got something, and you put into the kids, you invest in them, and you're invested in yourself. You're, the future. Anytime that you see that you got somebody, these trainers that are willing to come in and put their time in, not getting paid.
That's true.
But they do get paid when they look into kids, and they
That's
see
true.
whether the kids make it in boxing or they make it, they're learning life skills. They're becoming something other than the other alternatives, the streets, the drugs, the violence. And the other thing I learned about, and I've been in boxing one way or the other for a pretty
That's
long time. The racial barriers, the ethical barriers, the economic barriers, they disappear inside the gym.
That's true.
I noticed that. The things, when you go outside, I don't know what happens there, but there's a lot that the world could learn from just coming into a boxing gym and just seeing how the kids interact with each other, how the coaches and the trainers interact, and the relationship that builds, not just from, being a trainer or whatever, but there's the intimacy. They depend on you. You become more than just a trainer to them. They become your friend. They become, you become their mentor. So.
One word, and standard question. One word to describe Harold Johnson. Sum him up in one word.
Icon.
Icon. Well, thank you very much, Timmy.
Right.
Continue the great work, man. I'm here with Bernie Strain, who's one of the catalysts in getting this historical facility renamed after the great Harold Johnson, the Harold Johnson Memorial Gym. Bernie, you actually grew up in the same neighborhood with Harold. Talk to me about Harold Johnson.
Yes. I can talk to you about my grandfather's relationship with Harold Johnson. Harold Johnson grew up on Dexter Street in Manayunk. Harold Johnson grew up in an Afro-American community in Manayunk that was here before the white families have been here in Roxborough, Manayunk. Roxborough, Manayunk is traditionally mostly white, probably about 75%. But the Afro-American community in Manayunk were here before the Anglo-Saxon, or whatever we'd like to politically correct call it. Right? I'm not a politically correct guy. I'll say for the white people who've been here. But Harold grew up and raised his family 4 doors from where my grandfather raised 9 children. So Harold Johnson, people don't know it about Harold Johnson. My grandfather used to tell me that Harold Johnson was a drummer. And Harold Johnson, through the people, Afro-American community in Roxborough, wanted to have a band so bad when he was boxing and when he wasn't boxing, that he literally paid for the musicians' instruments to have his band. That was, boxing was his love, music was his passion.
I have to add, you did a lot in getting the boxing gym at the Kendrick Recreation Center. We're now in the boxing gym renamed after Harold Johnson. Why was it so important to you to have the gym renamed after him?
Well, without going through a long story, my son passed away at 18 years old.
Okay.
His friends came to me and said, there's no place for us to go. And that day I said we were going to honor my son with the wishes of his friends that were about boxing.
Okay.
So we literally, Joe Mathis came to me after my son passed, and we said we need to keep these kids busy. On average, there's 20 kids a year that die in this neighborhood of drug overdoses.
Okay.
Or of the violence does not discriminate black or white, rich or poor. So we were going to keep the kids busy no matter what, and honor my son. So Joe came to me and said, we want to have this gym. There is no question who we should name it after. And we both looked at each other and said, Harold Johnson, the person as well as the boxer.
I have to ask this question. I read about Battling Siki, light heavyweight champ in the 20s, who had a pet lion. He lived in France. He used to walk the lion. He used to have a top hat on in his suit. He used to walk his lion down the Champs-Élysées. I also read that the great Harold Johnson had a pet lion. How accurate is that story?
It's accurate.
Well,
Is it?
his family is here, and they said it's accurate. They can tell you that story. But God love him, God rest his soul. I can rest assured, if my grandfather, Earl Harmer, would have been 123 years old right now, and talking to him about Harold Johnson and about his neighbor, not about the boxer, there was no lion on Dexter Street in that
I've heard this story. In concluding, one word to describe Harold Johnson.
Love.
Love.
Absolutely.
Love.
Love boxing, love life, love music, love people.
I just wanted to thank you publicly for what you have done. It means so much to have this gym renamed after Harold Johnson. Thank you for all your efforts. It's a great day. Without you, I doubt if this would have happened.
Well, it's about we, not about me, and thank you very much. And thank the Johnson family for honoring us with their presence.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Harold Johnson Kendrick Recreation Center boxing program, we present this to you for your love of the game and just for joining us here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And from Harold Johnson,
thank you. This
love
means
wins,
a lot.
Love wins the war.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
God
Thank
bless you. Thank you.
It's great. I'm here with the Rev John Roberts, Harold Johnson's son, or Rev or Chuck as he's known. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Talk to me about this day and what it means to have this great boxing gym renamed after your legendary father.
I think this is a great day for all of us, myself, family included, that they would remember such a great and awesome fighter as my dad, growing up in this neighborhood.
What's your fondest memory of your father as a boxer?
My finest memory of my father as a boxer was when he beat, for the light heavyweight championship of the world, he fought right here in Philadelphia. I can't think of the fighter's name. My mind is that bad like that. Maybe the family can help me out. When he won the title here in Philadelphia at the arena.
That was 61.
In 60, yes.
Yes.
I was born at you.
Was it 61 or 63?
61.
Yeah, yeah. We unified the title, and I thought that was the greatest event in my life. And then there was a time when he fought Archie Moore when I was in the Navy.
Okay.
And then when I was in California, Archie Moore came to the base where I was to pick me up. Took me to his home and then showed me his trophy room and the pictures when he fought my father. You know, they fought 5 times. And that was a great day for me also. So it's a lot of memories that I have with Dad. And I miss him, you know, but I'm glad that they're doing this in his memory.
How was it growing up? You were a fighter yourself.
Yes.
How was it growing up as the son of a world champion and being a boxer yourself? How was the pressure?
Well, there was some type of pressure. I went to Edison High School when I was growing up, which was all boys school. And when you're younger and your dad's not around, people always want to try you to see if you're good as your father. So I used to get in a lot of fights before I even started boxing, so that they could see whether or not I was as good as my dad. And I was not. Not even when I started boxing was I good as my father. But later on, I started really learning the techniques of boxing. And at one time, during my father's end of his career, I was one of his sparring partners.
Oh.
And so, you know, I did pretty good, and people stopped bothering me after a while. You know, when you can hold your hands pretty good and your hand bite bother you. But growing up was a challenge, but it was also a great thing because when people knew that Harold Johnson was your father, it opened up some doors for you.
So you actually sparred with your dad?
Yes, I did.
But
a few times.
How did you feel sparring with your dad? If you it's a no-win situation. If you do horrible, he's going to talk about you.
True.
If you do too well, he's going to write you out the will.
Yeah, well, that's true too. Well, he didn't have to worry about writing me out the will, that's for sure. But I remember many times I would go to Edison and I would have maybe a little black eye or something because he would hit me. But I remember we had something special at the school. I never forgot this one. He came up and refereed a fight. There was a guy by the name of William Freeman, Billy Nitro Freeman, who trained out of 23rd and Powell. He was a good amateur and also a good professional. Him and I went to Edison together, and we did a sparring match. And my father was there to referee the fight, and that was a great honor. But growing up as a young boxer, people sometimes expect a lot of you. Thought I was going to be another champion like my dad, but it didn't work out that way. Not as far as world champion.
Right.
I won Golden Gloves. I won the Navy boxing championship and different things like that. I went also to the Olympic trials in '72, but I didn't make it.
But I've checked the record throughout Philadelphia, and it's been confirmed you were a bad man.
I was that bad?
Yes, you were a bad meaning good.
Oh, okay.
No, not. You were a bad man, meaning good. You were a helpful fighter.
I was trying. I met a lot of fighters, and I boxed with a lot of fighters, and I learned a lot. And I'm really grateful, and I contribute all that to my father.
I have to check the story, and I'm asking everyone. I read that your dad had a lion, a pet lion. How true is that story?
He did. He had a pet lion, and he was a little small thing. But then when he started growing, the people became a little excited about that, and he had to wind up giving it up. But I remember when he had the lion. I do. He lived up on Dexter Street at that time in Manayunk here. Yeah, I remember that. That was really funny.
What do you want people to remember most about your father?
Well, that he was a great fighter, number one, but he was also a kind and humble person. He wasn't loud and rowdy. My dad never drank, never smoked, and so because of that, neither did I. I didn't grow up drinking and smoking. I was around people that did that like he was, but I never did that. And also the fact that on the side he played drums,
Right.
And then of course my son, who is also right now touring with Janet Jackson, he's Janet Jackson's drummer. He picked up that, and so he kind of passed the mantle on to my son. The boxing helps the physical man.
Right.
But the spiritual man also needs help also. And so as a pastor, I do work with a lot of young men, those that have been incarcerated or whatever. Some of them have joined my church and who are officials in the church. So that's a great help there too also.
Last question. One word to describe your father. If you could do it in one word.
Great.
Great. There you have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm here with Valerie, daughter of the great champion Harold Johnson. How you doing, Valerie?
Good.
Talk to me about your dad and growing up as the daughter of the great Harold Johnson.
Well, what I remember most about my dad is he was very affectionate, and he loved to go to the movies. He'd take us, he would, put our pajamas on and take us to the drive-in movie. He loved to go to the drive-in movies at Ridge Pike, 61st Street. That was where that's what he loved to do most. He loved going to the movies. And he was just a fun dad. I mean, he loved taking us to Great Adventure, like all the fun places that kids love. My parents unfortunately broke up when I was young, very young.
You were born the year he won the championship?
Yes, 61.
Okay.
So I remember him just coming, taking me to a lot of fun places all the time.
To a lot of fun places. What does it mean in this community to have this boxing gym named after your father?
Well, I think it's a great thing. My father, if he was living today, I think he would be so grateful for this because he, I think he deserves it, and it means a lot for kids to have something to do. I just think he would, it's a great thing.
If you could describe him in one word, what would it be?
I guess love. And he was, like they say, a pure technician.
Pure technician.
Yes, he was, it was a talent for him. I mean, it was an art. Because you could look at him and just see that he was a professional boxer. Because I can see the difference. For years, I didn't know what was the difference between a fighter and a boxer.
Okay.
But now, looking at my dad, I could see that he was a perfectionist. And so that's what I think of when I think of him. Love, and I'm sorry, a perfectionist. And
The man
that's
was
what
a
he
glove Picasso. And talking to people, it's ironic. You're the one of the few people that remember the person he won the championship from. And who was that?
Jesse Bowdry.
Jesse Bowdry. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Valerie. It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you. I'm here with Mildred Johnson, wife of the legendary Harold Johnson. Ms. Johnson, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks.
What does it mean to have this boxing gym renamed after the great champion?
Oh, it's a wonderful thing for his family because he was a terrific boxer. And it's just wonderful that they should do something like this in his honor.
In his honor. I've read so many stories about him having a lion. Is that true?
Yeah, he brought a lion home one night living on Park Avenue. And the lion kept us up all night making noises, roaring. But he took it, he didn't keep him long.
He didn't
Maybe
keep him long.
overnight. He took him back to the pet store or wherever he got him from. I don't know where he got him from.
How was it being married to a world champion and being the wife of a boxer in training camp and all the demands?
Sometimes it was fun and sometimes not so much fun. But it was interesting.
It was interesting. What's your fondest memory of him as a fighter?
Well, I think the best fight I've ever seen him fight was with Doug Jones.
Oh, Doug Jones. He beat Doug Jones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And people don't know Doug Jones is the guy that dropped Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Harold beat him unanimously. That was the best one I've seen. I did see him fight in Germany when he fought Booty Schultz. That was close, and we were in Germany, and I was kind of scared. Yeah, it was kind of scary.
So you grew to appreciate boxing because you just rattle off those names off the top of your head just like that.
Well, I was married to a fighter.
What made Harold Johnson such a great fighter?
His defense.
Defense.
Yeah, and he was a good boxer. He didn't just fight headhunt. He well, everybody knows that he picked the right times to hit or whatever. I think he was a terrific boxer.
He was a terrific boxer. The Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia boxers, we have Joe Frazier up there. We have Benny Briscoe up there. Most people would say we have to have Harold Johnson up there.
So, yeah.
You agree with us? Okay.
Yeah.
What's the last thing? What do you want us to leave here today in remembrance of Harold Johnson?
Well, he was a terrific boxer. He didn't abuse himself with alcohol and smoking. He was a clean living person.
One word to describe him.
Handsome.
Well, Ms. Johnson, well, thank you very much. I think it's so wonderful that the family came out, you came out, and I feel so honored as a boxer because I met your husband at the legendary Blue Horizon, and I think it's so great that this community has honored him by renaming this boxing gym, the Harold Johnson Memorial Boxing Gym. So thank you very much, and thank you for sharing your husband with us in the world. Thank you. It has been quite a day here, folks. The Kendrick Recreation Center, the second oldest recreation center in Philadelphia, had the boxing gym renamed after the great champion, Harold Johnson. Everyone came out, Councilman Curtis Jones and several others, like Cruiserweight champ Nate Miller. We thank everyone for coming out. It means a lot for Philadelphia. Boxing is in the fabric of our beloved town. Philadelphia is the capital of boxing. And having a boxing gym here in Manayunk means so much to this community because the young people learn life skills through the sport of boxing. Thank you for watching Boxing 396. Have a wonderful day. And remember, the great champion, Harold Johnson. Today is the anniversary of his passing. Thank you.